Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rewind and Reflect, where we believe in the universal truth that there is no such thing as coincidences or mistakes. And we are going to share our experiences with that with you. I am Deb Miller.
Hi, I am Susan Doyle. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Hi, Deb. How's it going?
Hi. Oh my gosh. So, a couple things just popped into my head. One was, I don't know if we said this already, but like there's no editing of this. So there's going to be lots of kind of things that happen and go wrong. Like you started playing the music, but I didn't hear that we were being recorded. So I just yelled out, "No, we're not recording." And then all of a
And
sudden
you wagged your finger.
I
I saw
did.
that. It's
I,
okay.
I was trying to be like, get your attention. Anyways, so just expect some flubs now and then. Um, The other thing is, so today was a really big day for me. Um, we just launched to the public our podcast. And
Yes.
I know it's so exciting, but I learned something about myself today. So you and I have been recording this podcast for a while. We probably did like 6 podcasts and then we threw those in the garbage and we decided to start over because we couldn't figure out how to make the music work. We couldn't, there were so many things that we just could not figure out how to do. And we were trying to kind of go backwards. We videoed the episode and then we tried to make it look all pretty and it just didn't work. So we threw those out and we figured out how to use um, the music on Zoom, whatever. So we've been at this for quite some time, but we haven't announced it to our world until today. And I was having mad anxiety about posting about this and getting it into the public. And because I could have been built, we both could have been building it up like, okay, oh my gosh, something's happening, stay tuned, all the things that you probably should be doing, but we didn't. And I was just a nervous wreck. Anyways, yesterday I get a call from a friend of mine here in Sarasota who runs this amazing nonprofit for homeless people. I mean, this woman is just remarkable. Hopefully, one day we'll have her on the show. But I look up to her in so many different ways. And she called yesterday to say that one of her clients needed some help. They were struggling with substance use disorder. And she had read my book and she had me in to speak at her company to talk about what to look for with clients who have substance use disorder, et cetera, et cetera. So she reached out yesterday and we just got in a conversation. She asked me what was new and I said, she said, "Are you writing another book? I really want you to write another book." I said, "Well, right now I'm working on a project. I'm doing a podcast." And she was like, "That's amazing." I told her a little bit about it. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I think tomorrow." She goes, "What's the link? I want the link." And I said, "Well, tomorrow I'm going to put it on social media so you'll have it all in front of you." And she said, "That's so great. I'm so proud of you." And I said, "I don't know what I'm doing." So I don't know what it's going to look like. So don't get your, hopes up too. And she said to me, "What are you worried about?" And I said, I don't know. I'm very apprehensive about putting this out there." And she said, "You have already done all the hard work. Like you're on the other side of it. Now it's just have fun. Have fun get-
Amen.
getting the message out. Have fun, just talking about all the things." She said, so she really made me feel so much better about it. Okay. Then today, out of the blue, so I said, "You're right. I'm just doing it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to get it out there. Whatever happens with it, it happens." And then today I get this random DM on Facebook. This is how the universe works, and this is how beautiful my God is. And so I get this random message on Facebook from this woman who said, "We have some mutual friends. I just moved to Sarasota and I just finished your audiobook. And oh my gosh, I'm so inspired by you. You know, she said some really, really nice things, and which made me feel even more secure in doing this. And I said, well, I'm so glad that you said that. I really needed this little boost today because we're about to launch, my friend and I are about to launch a podcast. And she said, oh my gosh, I've watched the podcast you're already on. This is going to be amazing. I can't wait. So that made me feel good. And then I just was reading this book that I'm like totally obsessed with, Dr. Brian Weiss. He writes about he's a prominent psychiatrist who writes a lot about spirit guides and um, past lives on people, reincarnation, all that. And in this book, it just said one of the lessons that we're here to learn is to take risks, like not be afraid of anything. It's do not be afraid of anything. You're immortal. Nothing can hurt you. Take risks. And I thought, okay, here we go. And meanwhile, then you come on and you say we have 2 new followers, which is like,
Yes. Yes.
woohoo!
Yeah.
So we're up to four followers. I love it. So I wanted to share that little nugget of, some universal taps on my shoulder to say, just go for it. Nothing to
You know
lose.
what? Thank you for sharing. And this is absolutely crazy. And I swear to people, this is not made up. And Debbie and I did not, I call you Debbie, I'm sorry. Debbie
It's
and I
okay.
did not discuss our stories because we both came on saying, oh my God, I have this little story that I want to share. And I said, so do I. You are never going to believe this.
Tell me.
So most people in my life know that I still teach exercise classes. I started teaching by not even happenstance. I took classes back when I was like 18, and I had the balls enough to go up to this woman who is the instructor and said, will you please teach me how to do that? And she did.
Wow. Good for
So
you.
I was 18 or 19. It was like maybe closer to 19. She taught me how to do it and like something clicked, right? So fast forward, I will be 57 next month and I am still teaching
Amazing.
and still have an unbelievable, loyal, amazing following.
Hmm.
So I'm teaching yoga this morning. And I said, so I typically address the class and just sort of give them something to either think about or something to ponder. And so I said, so at the beginning of my class, I shit you not, was live big,
Oh
take
my
up
God.
space. You are not here to be in the background.
Wow.
And so I put on this funky playlist. I sometimes play music, sometimes I don't. But since it's out of the holidays, I said, you know what? We're gonna play some real. So I played some 80s music. We had a blast. And throughout the class, I'll kind of change, the sequence of the class a little bit sometimes to match, the informational message, so to speak, or the spiritual message, or something to the psychological message. And so I just kept saying, like, have fun, like move around, wiggle your butt, dance in the pose, like it's okay, being stop living small because you're afraid of what somebody's going to say or think about what you're doing.
Hmm.
So one of the mantras that I try to live by is, and what people think of me is none of my business, correct? So I could be on my mat doing something. I could be out, at the line at Starbucks doing something. I could care less. It's not my business.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing was we are here for such a small, short, finite period of time. Like we were not born to not make an impact and not to go for it. And who cares what happens? And so the class was great. It was so much fun. And at the end of class, I said, can you please stay for a moment? And I announced to my class that we were doing this podcast. And they
Oh.
were like, where? And I could see them on their phones. And I said, I'm going to announce it on social media. So find me on, if you don't already follow me, find me on social media and it will be on YouTube. And I like, I part of me wanted to catch the words that was coming out of my mouth, but I'm like, no, I am not in the background any longer. And I did exactly because I said at the end of class, I said, listen, I'm sure some of you think like I say these things and I don't really live by it. It's sort of one of those. And I said, I do. I believe that my career in fitness and wellness has been so long and so robust is because I walk the walk and talk the talk. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
empty words coming out. And so I put it out there. So I was like, oh my God.
So
And
maybe
then
we'll
I'm
have
writing,
5 followers soon. I think,
one of them being your son, but I digress.
well, that, I love that. It's when I'm learning that when you put yourself in a loving and giving energy, that
Hmm.
all comes back to you and you kind of ride the wave of that good stuff. So I think that's what's happening here, which is amazing. But I'm so glad that you brought up your fitness because, last time we talked about, just to give a quick recap, we lived separate lives for so long. We came back together as friends and kind of started talking about how, our life paths. And even though our lives were quite different, we were so the same inside, struggling terribly with these, voices that we'd hear, and these expectations that were put upon us, that, you know, we just A, didn't feel like we could meet them. That was my feeling. Or B, you just didn't want any expectations around you. You wanted, to make your own expectations of yourself. So, and I kind of my bad voices, the voices in my head turned into an addiction, an opiate addiction. And yours kind of turned into a little bit of an exercise addiction. So,
Yeah,
and it also, you struggled with an eating disorder. So do you mind sharing
correct.
about that?
No, not one bit. Not one bit. So thanks for lobbing that up for me. And um, I have to say in regards to the stories is I just had I think over the course of time I realized that with a lot of help, that it was a story of just not being worthy of whatever the universe was giving me. And I was so hyper focused that I didn't see the signs and I didn't see what the universe was trying to give me. So I started struggling with, I would say, body image really, really young. As I was thinking about sharing the story today, I can recall a summer, I think I was literally in like second or third grade, and I wouldn't wear shorts.
Wow.
I spent the entire summer in jeans
My
and
goodness.
baggy t-shirts. So I don't know where it came from. Um, I can give you a very, very specific story. I remember you sharing last time we spoke about the first time you um, tried cocaine. You were like, this is where it's at.
Yep.
So I I don't my addiction was not chasing a feeling. I believe my addiction was I am going to prove all of you wrong and I am actually in control, not you.
Okay.
So that was probably second or third grade. And then in fifth grade, this was an absolute positive turning point for me. And I remember it like it was yesterday. We were outside at recess. We still had recess back then in our coats, and it was kind of chilly, cool out, you know. And there was already sort of like this hierarchy of girls, right? I mean, we can get into that, like not fixing each other's crowns and women and girls who are just not nice, but that's a whole other conversation. And this one girl who was sort of like the leader of the pack was sitting on this chair, and we all sat on each other's laps and sort of stacked up. And when I sat down, and it wasn't even on her lap, it was like three people up, she announced to to the group really loudly, "You have to get off me, you're too fat."
Oh my gosh.
And something in my brain clicked that I was fat.
That's insane because I knew you in fifth grade. I had just moved into the town. And so from fifth grade to today, like you have never had an ounce of fat on your body. Like,
No, nope.
so that's how
Yeah.
critical somebody's word is.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
saying something can just take somebody out and yeah, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. And it just started that ball roll like it was a runaway train. I started feeling not great about myself. I started comparing myself to other people. I was never heavy, but I was not that like skinny little kid. I was always just healthy and athletic looking and, just normal. I just looked normal.
Hmm.
Um, I and so it manifested in, kind of a very much dysmorphic relationship with my body.
Hmm.
So then starting in like seventh grade ish, we started learning about like food and calories. And so I started being hyper focused on calories, and I would count them, and I had this little book and I would write down what I ate, um and I got very, very sick in, I think, 10th grade, ninth grade, I had mono. Remember
Right.
that? I was
Yeah.
out of school for like 2 or 3 months. I am sure it is a direct relationship to my immune system being so
Compromise.
depleted because I wasn't really eating.
Right. And can I just stop you there? I just thought of
Hmm.
something too. So you and I became friends in seventh grade, and you were already taking notes of calorie intake and paying attention to food and all that. So that just raised a flag to me because you were keeping that secret because I never knew about that because I never knew that you were doing that. And you and I
Yeah.
spent every waking hour together.
Every waking minute together.
And
Hmm.
so right there, your disease started. You're
A
keeping
100%.
it secret. The food, the calorie tracking, you're keeping secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So yeah, and then by
And
night,
then we went into high school, and I remember this very clearly. You and I would drink on the weekends. So I wouldn't eat all day. So I could have the calories from
oh
the alcohol and not feel bad about myself.
yeah,
And I would
wow,
get drunker and I would get drunk quicker
yeah, and throw up quicker. Yeah.
and throw up quicker. And yeah, and then I can't really pinpoint a time where my calorie restriction turned into over exercising. So I think, I realized, so I think what happened is when I started working in the health clubs and started um, teaching and exercising a lot and lifting weights, I realized that I needed certain foods and a lot of calories to look the way I wanted to look in regards to feeling and looking really fit.
Hmm.
So I started eating what appeared to be a little bit more normal, even though the conversation I would have a rolling conversation with myself all day, every day about what I was going to eat, when I was going to eat it, what it, what was going to be in it, and I would time it to match what I did for a workout. So if I taught 2 or 3 classes in one day, I would eat, it was just this roll, like it was just on, it
Yeah.
just kept going and going and going and going. So I realized that I had to eat, but then what I ended up doing is turning my that story into addictive behavior when it came to exercise. So I convinced myself that an hour a day was not good enough, and or one class a day wasn't good enough, and I became completely out of control with the amount of exercise I did, still having that food conversation in my head
So how
of
old were you then when this was all happening? You weren't married yet, or you were?
I started teaching when I was 19. I got married when I was 25. So it was sort of in between there where I was figuring out what to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started over exercising because, like, I would teach class, but I would say, okay, well, that was my job, and now I have to work out for me, and I would go for a run, or I would lift weights, and things like that. And actually happened to meet my first husband in a health club, so like I was in that environment, and I don't know if the universe drew me to that environment because of my rolling dialogue, or if it was because I was actually really good at what I was doing. I don't know.
You were probably really good at what you were doing because it's something you constantly thought about,
True.
and then
Very true.
yeah,
Very true. Um, and it spiraled for years. For years, I would work out 3, 4, 5 hours a day. On my day off, I would go running. I would go to a yoga class and not count it as a class because it was just yoga. Well, let me tell you something. Like it was an hour and 15 minutes in the 110-degree heat. It was absolutely a workout.
yeah.
Um,
Did Steven know
and
any of this? Did he pick up that you were a little unhealthy, or did you was it still a
I
secret?
think he kind of gave up. I mean, I think he was sort of like, you don't have to do, why don't you stay home or why don't and I was just like, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. So what happened with me is I became, I majored in fitness at school. I became a personal trainer and a group exercise instructor. I owned my own business. I worked people out. And so my addiction became my profession and kind of like my calling card. And it just was so incredibly unhealthy because
Yeah.
I convinced myself that I had to be this way in order to be successful at what I was doing.
Mm.
And this is where it sort of what is that saying? The pavement meets the road.
The tires meet the pavement. I don't
Uh,
know. No,
Something like that.
yeah, the rubber hits the
Um,
road. The
the
rubber.
rubber hits the road. Yes. My relationship was not great, but I got so much praise, accolades, and respect at work for
Yeah.
how I looked, what I was doing,
Hmm.
the service I was providing, that all of that fed into my unhealthy story for
Yeah.
30 plus years.
How did you deal with being pregnant and gaining the pregnancy weight, or you didn't gain pregnancy weight?
I did gain pregnancy weight. Both my kids were like almost 9 pounds.
Yeah.
So I gained like 40 plus with both of them. Um, Very interesting question, and thank you for saying that. I would step on the scale at the doctor's office backwards, so I didn't have to see the number.
Wow.
And I would say, please don't tell me.
Oh my
But I
God.
knew that I knew that I was responsible for making this little baby healthy,
Yeah.
and I didn't want it to rob me of all the nutrients I needed. So I ate a lot. I will say this till the day I die. I literally gave myself permission to eat whatever I wanted when I was pregnant. I still worked out. I
Mhm.
ran until I was like 7 months pregnant. I taught high impact step aerobics holding my stomach on a Tuesday, and Tyler was born on a Sunday.
Oh my God. What?
Yeah,
I can't
stupid.
even. No,
Stupid. I mean, just dumb.
I wouldn't even pump gas when I was pregnant. I was like, no, I'm not getting out of the car.
Oh yeah, it was, and so I went along like that for years, and what ended up happening is I surrounded myself with people who paid me to
Yeah.
be a fitness person, and I believed what I was doing was part of my job.
Yeah. Wow.
And by the grace of God, I never got an injury. But this is where I kind of snapped out of it. And I didn't snap out of it. And that's not accurate. I didn't snap out of it. What I did is I decided that I was tired of being tired.
Yeah.
I was tired of beating myself up. My dad got very sick and ultimately passed away within a 9 month period of time.
Hmm.
And I had had taps on my shoulder. I had gotten in a really bad car accident, went back to work teaching
That's
spinning.
right. I
The
remember
next day,
you broke
the
your
next
back.
day,
Didn't you break your back?
I had really bad whiplash, and I am sure looking back on it, I had a really bad concussion.
Oh,
Sat on the bike the very next day. I knew that if I had continued down the road that I was on, I would get sick and I would die.
hmm.
For some reason, your mind is so powerful. And when my dad passed away and he had seen how successful I had become, and he was so proud of me.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to die
Mhm.
if I stayed in this cycle. And I made a very, very rash decision. I sold my studio and walked out the door.
Just like that.
Just like that. I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and it took a while for me to go back to teaching. And I had a gym in my house, and my ex-husband sold exercise equipment, so we had a really nice studio in our home. And I said, you know what? I am just going to sit on I'm just going to do what normal people do and see just for, I gave myself a finite period of time. Within a couple of days, I felt leaner. I felt clearer. I
Oh.
felt lighter. And I started to just come out of this fog
Mm.
that I had put myself in.
Did the wheels stop turning at that point? Like once you kind of resigned?
It's a really interesting question because I don't think I don't, the story that I told myself of the fact that I was unworthy or this was my way of controlling things when I felt out of control slowly started to quell. I wish I could say to you right now today that I never have a conversation with myself about what I'm eating and when I'm going to exercise, because that's not true. I
Mm.
still have it's more of a give and take conversation now rather than a a a rolling a wheel that keeps turning. And today it looks more like planning my days off during the week when I'm not going to exercise. And I have a glass of wine every night. And I did not drink for 26 years because I didn't want the extra calories.
Please, yeah.
Um, that I will go to a yoga class and that's it. I will lift weights for 30 minutes and that's it for the day. And there are times when I think there's times when I feel like my life is, like not settled, so to speak, or I'm not in harmony, or I'm not as peaceful as I would like to be. It's my go-to of, well, let's just go for a run or let's just do this. And so I have worked really hard. Um, a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of yoga and therapy to just quiet my mind before I before I react,
Hmm.
or go directly into that type of thing, and realize that, I'm worthy of taking care of myself, and I am worthy of living a really great life filled with good food and making exercise fun. And so I now still every once in a while have a hard time seeing the changes that are going on in my body, more like my skin at 50, almost 57. I did believe that I was going to look a certain way till I died because I did all the right things, right? Um, I am much, much kinder to myself today.
Good, good. I want to just, I'm wondering, when you have stress in your life, when a day's going off the rail and things are, whatever, out of your control, do you find that you fall back into that pattern of like, okay, I can't control that, but I can control this, so I'm going to do this? Or are you much more, you work through it in a more healthy way?
Both. So it's much more the healthy way. The larger percentage of the times is a much more healthy way where I will just go into a room by myself, shut the door, and take a few deep breaths, or, you know, watch some mindless reality TV. And everyone, I don't, if the conversation comes up, the unhealthy conversation comes up in my mind, I don't necessarily act on it anymore.
Oh, that's good.
I have the tools to let it be there and then let it leave.
Do you have a village of people around you that you can lean on or call? Or are you so much in the position of running the classes and being the teacher that you, I can see like it might be difficult for you to ask for help for somebody that you're trying to help, but I feel like they might be suffering from the same conversations.
Most of the time, when I choose some sort of topic to speak about in my class, it's something that I need to hear.
Yeah,
So that really helps me when I see what I need to hear resonate with other people. So it's not necessarily a calling on the phone and saying, the runaway train is coming. It is I it is connecting in a way that I feel as though we are all in this giant community together, just having each other's backs.
yeah.
And so that helps. I mean, calling you helps.
Yeah.
I have a couple of other dear friends that just connecting with them
Yeah.
is good. Um, and I think too, just because I feel physically so good that I know that if I ever started sliding back, how it just feels awful.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
so and now I just know that I exercise to be healthy and to live a really long life. And I don't ever want to have to go on medication if something is in my control. And I live from that space.
That's
I do.
awesome.
Yeah.
I, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I have another question, of course. I'm full of questions. So being an addict, I have I have I dream a lot. Like every single night I'm living a whole nother world in my dreams. And sometimes I have dreams where I've relapsed. The other night I had a dream that I was drinking and causing all sorts of problems. And I woke up feeling like I owed a bunch of people amends, even though it was a dream, but they're so real. And that's part of being in recovery and part of, your people have drunk dreams and drug dreams all the time. And sometimes they're so real and you wake up almost feeling hungover and
Wow.
you have to really question, like, did that just happen or did I dream it? Do you ever struggle with dreams like that? Like that maybe you're gaining weight or that, you're not eating or you're whatever, you've lost control of this.
I know that I am at peace because I sleep like a baby and
Yeah,
I
good.
don't dream at all.
You don't
So
dream.
I am very much at peace with what I am becoming.
Good.
So no, I don't. I often comment to my husband, and I said, like, he'll say, he'll tell me that he had a bad dream or he had a weird dream or something like that. On occasion, I will say I had a really weird dream, but it never has anything to do with that.
Yeah, okay.
But I do know that when I was in the real heavy duty throes of it, I would wake up with heart palpitations. Like I could feel my heart pounding out of my chest.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen anymore.
That's good. I feel like, and I'm curious to any of our listeners, if you do struggle with an eating disorder or have in the past, or any kind of substance use disorder, or even, uh, addictions turn into all sorts of different things, including, gambling or sex or overworking, which blows my mind, but there are workaholics out there. Um, But I just wonder, I would love to hear some questions that you might have for us, and also wonder if you ever have kind of these dreams that for me, it keeps it real so that I know that it would be very easy to slip in back into my addiction. I think the people with eating disorders have I give you so much credit, and I am like, I just think that you're amazing, all the people who have conquered the eating disorder, because I can go my whole life without a drug or a drink, but we need food to eat. So like
Yes.
you need that. You cannot live without food. So to have a weird relationship with food, that's very difficult to overcome. So good for you. Kudos for you and
Well, thank
congratulations.
you. Thank you. I think I appreciate you saying that. Um, I think really what it boiled down to is um, I needed to kind of just forgive myself for the behavior, forgive myself. In recovery or in 12-step program, you ask, you make amends. I do recall on separate occasions apologizing, making amends to my children because I was so depleted. I was angry all the time, and I wanted them to know that I realized how I was at times. Um, and it was because, and I remember a conversation recently, maybe within the last 6 months or a year, that I was having with you, and we were talking about, I was apologizing to you, and you said, I have forgiven you. And so let the listener be, I want the listeners to know that us going our separate ways was really initiated by me. And I don't know why, other than when you said to me that day on the phone when I was apologizing to you, you said to me something like, I just missed you.
Mm,
And I wanted to know, I wanted to find you or something. And or I really loved you. And I said to you, I said, but I didn't like myself.
right.
And so I think I needed, listen, I am not regretful, I'm not resentful. I lived the life I lived in order to learn, and
Mhm.
it taught me a lot about myself.
Yeah,
And the things that I went through has shaped who I am.
right. And
And
we also have to remember that again, in the universal truth, there's no such thing as coincidence or mistakes. So we
right,
separated from each other at that time and reconnected 30 years later because it could not have been before then. For what I
correct,
was going through, what you were going through, um, it just would have never have worked. So I this is all happening for a reason. I mean, there's other people in my life who I've disconnected from that I may never reconnect with, and it just tells me it wasn't meant to be. But
right.
this is.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. So yeah, I mean, I hope, again, I think us coming together and doing this and living big and living loud and living on purpose. I know if nothing else could, maybe hopefully bring smiles to both of our faces every week that we get to talk, and, may bring some people down memory lane and, organically grow into a community that relies on one another. I don't know. Yeah.
and I do want to, I know you're going to tell everybody what the email address is because you're so good at remembering that. And, the more that we can get people to kind of collaborate with us on this, we will be wanting to have guests on here and
Yes.
all sorts of fun things. But let us know if you have a certain topic, because trust me, we can talk about anything and everything, but we would love to talk about something that really matters to
Yeah,
others.
that's great. So we are rewind and reflect with us at gmail.com. Um, Write in and say hi, write in with a topic, write in with your own story. Let us know if you have something to share, and we can schedule some of you to be on and share the show. Like if you really like it, share it. We will be posting weekly when a new episode is uploaded to YouTube, and we're just going to go from there. See where the universe takes us, right, Deb?
I love that. I love that. Love that. So far, so good. All
Yes.
right, everybody. Namaste. Love you.
Namaste. Love you. Have a good day. Bye.